So my name is Joao. I'm a software engineer at Nutmeg. And today I'm here to talk to you about, as David said, how we create microservices at Nutmeg. So first of all, a little bit about what we do. Um, we are one of Europe's largest online investment managers. So with the use of technology, we are able to bring everyone products that were once only available to the wealthy people. So we can manage your investments the same way, whether you have £1 million to invest or you have £5,000. So we do that with the use of technology. So this is something that I have to say. As you notice, I am a software engineer. I'm not a financial advisor. This presentation is not financial advice. It would be really unwise to make any financial or investment decisions based on this presentation only. So do your research and plan your investments wisely. Yeah, the last few years have been really good for us. We've grown quite a lot. We've grown not only in the number of customers, but also in the amount of investments that we manage for our customers. And this whole growth brought some scalability challenges. So we are on that startup phase where our old monolith isn't able to cope anymore. Most startups go through this phase at some point. So in order to tackle this, we decided that we need to start breaking the monolith and building new services. So our backend structure is based on mostly standard Java and Spring Boot applications. We're using Spring Boot 2 for our services. And as we have the need to build a lot of new services, we wanted to create a tool that our engineers could use to create new services quite easily and in a way that we would have a standardized set of services in which if you're an engineer and you are working in a particular application and you move to another one, you would feel familiar with it. So this would increase productivity for our developers. And the aim of the tool would also be to set a base level of quality in all our services, providing a few set of dependencies and tools to help with the quality of our applications. So this is basically what we did. We created a tool which is basically a bash script, which does a bunch of few different things. So it starts by using what we use the Maven Archetype. So this will take care of building the skeleton of our services. And it would provide out of the box all of the dependencies needed for all the services, including Spring Boot, testing frameworks, stuff like check style, Jacoco, PND, all of that out of the box, some internal dependencies as well. Also, that skeleton would have the definition of the layers that we have in our services, so the REST layers, the domain layers, and the data access layers. So it would provide Maven modules for all of that. And also, it would come out of the box with a set of smoke tests, integration tests, and end-to-end tests. And these tests are built in a quite specific way in which we can run these tests. We can actually build these tests as a test jar and provide them with a context where a service is deployed. And we can run these tests against a deployed service as opposed to how you would usually do that. Apart from that, this tool would create a Git repo and push the code to GitHub. It would handle the credentials creation for the database access of that application. So we have an internal tool at Nutmeg which is very similar to Vault, which you might have heard, which is basically a secrets manager. We call it the Nutcracker. And this tool would be able to talk to Nutcracker and create a key and a secret and provide that to the deployment of the application. Also, this tool would be able to create the database and apply the migrations for the database. So this means that each service would contain its own database out of the box as well. And also, it creates the continuous delivery for this service. So it will provide a set of scripts to build and deploy the application. And it would create a set of Jenkins jobs and the pipeline definition to get the application from the code until it's deployed in a test environment. So these build scripts that it provides do stuff like creating the Docker containers for the service. And we are using Mesos and Marathon as orchestration of our containers. So these deployment scripts would be able to talk to Marathon to deploy the containers into our different environments. And also we use Singularity for the database deployments and our flyway migrations. So they would be able to talk to Singularity as well for that. So this is basically how it looks for a developer to create a new service from scratch. So basically, as I said, this is a bar script application. So we basically run a command to create an application. We pass in a bunch of parameters. So we tell the script that we want to create a Git repo, that we want to create a Jenkins pipeline. We tell it the name of the service. And then the tool starts building everything. So here we can see that it runs the Maven Archetype to generate the skeleton code of the service. When that's done, it prompts you if you want to create the GitHub repo for this service. Apart from that, it starts building the Jenkins pipeline for the service. So what we have is we have a master repo that configures all of our Jenkins jobs, which we call the Jenkins CI. And what this tool does is it adds a job in that repo that is only a seed job for some job definitions that will be included in the service itself. So we push a new job in the Jenkins CI that tracks Groovy files in our service for new job changes and pipeline definition as well. Apart from that, after we do that, it starts dealing with the Nutcracker credentials, and this is more or less how it looks, the Nutcracker flow. So as I mentioned previously, we start by creating a key, and then we create a secret. We share that secret with a key, and if all of that is successful, we populate the Jenkins file with the deployment credentials for that particular service. So this is all contained within the service code, and is provided out of the box by this tool as well. So after all of this is finished, we can go to Jenkins and we can see that our pipeline is now built, and it's hopefully, if all went well, started to build our application. So I can talk a little bit about the stages that we have for our services, but mainly what we have is we build the application, we deploy to two different environments. The first one is what we call the transit environment, in which we deploy the application. It's just a temporary environment. We deploy the application, and this application won't be talking to any external services. So in this environment, we mock everything, and we run a set of smoke tests against that, and then we run a set of very thorough tests against that environment. So these tests can be a bit more thorough because as it's running against mocks, they run very fast. Once that's done, we tear down that environment and we deploy to a test environment where all the other services are living as well. And we run a set of tests against that. We run cucumber tests on the end-to-end phase. And if all of that is successful, we have a running service in our test environment. So here we can have a look at some of the scripts that the tool creates. So some of them are quite simple. So the build script, for instance, will just run a Maven clean install, and the create application container will just create the Docker images for the service. It's worth noting that even on our transient environments, we also mock our Nutcracker service. So we want to be talking to a real Nutcracker on a transient environment, and we also deploy a database in a container. Whereas in the test environments, we actually roll out database to an RDS instance of our MySQL database. Apart from that, we have another one that is quite interesting is the run service tests script. This script is able to download a test jar that was built in the build phase. And as I mentioned previously, it can run a test against one of the deployed services. So this is very powerful. So we can run each set of tests against production, for instance, or against a test environment. And on the right-hand side, you can see the jobs that are part of this pipeline. So the purpose of these jobs is that they mainly call the scripts that are on the left-hand side. So we can see the build transient environment job, the deployment job. So these are all calling these services, these scripts on the left-hand side. So yeah, if that's all perfect, we should have our application deployed, and we can check here in this is the Marathon interface, where we can see the three instances, the three Docker containers in the transient running in a transient environment. So this is the application running, the first one. The second one is the database container, and the third one is the Nutcracker mock. If we would have other services to mock, they would be here as well. And that's tear down in the end of the integration test, and then the Docker container is deployed to the integration environment, and it's there living. So if this is all funky, we can go to the browser. We can make a request to the /info endpoint. This is provided as well out of the box by the tool. So this is a custom implementation of the Spring Boot actuators info endpoint, in which we finessed with the database version. So this is an endpoint which goes all the way to the database and comes back with the version of the Flyway migration that is currently deployed. So a developer can do this in about 10 to 15 minutes from the beginning to end. And this previously, this would take a few days to get all set up. So I think we've achieved what we wanted, which was save some time when we create services. We provided a standard across the company, so all the services have the same structure, even though a developer is able to change it if he wants, and depending on the purpose of the service. All of the services will feel familiar to all the developers if they jump into that one. And all the services are pretty much self-contained, in which they all provide a database of its own. They all have the definition of the Jenkins pipeline on their own without having to depend on anything else. And yes, this is basically what I had to show you today. Do we have any questions? Yeah. So what I mean. So we have created a few new services using this tool, and obviously the ramp up phase of going from scratch to having a service up and running was really quick. So we really believe that helped us a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to change this, is that what you mean? Sorry, okay, I see what you mean. So we find a bug after creating a bunch of new services. Yeah, I think that in that situation we would have to go and retrospectively fix it everywhere. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.